What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Realistic Summer Career Mode. This is episode number 43, and we're starting today's episode off on the back of the 1-1 draw with Spurs. 3 straight draws for Manchester City, still undefeated in the Premier League, but the crack's starting to show a little bit. Yep, taken over at the Etihad Stadium for this season, asked to win the domestic double. Right now, still in pole position, but proof in the pudding, we're not going to walk the league. Certainly not at this current pace. So, yeah, first game of today's episode, Gerrard's Aston Villa. I got to say, I was listening to him on my favourite podcast. I've heard the episode before, but I re-listened to it last night. Gerrard's episode of the High Performance podcast with Jake Humphrey, the BT Sports presenter. I've dropped the podcast a few times on this channel. I love the podcast. I listen to it all the time. I re-listened to his episode. This was back when he was still in charge of Rangers and they hadn't won the SPL at this point. Like, they were still going for it in his debut season there. And brilliant episode. There was one bit that really stood out for me. Obviously, Jake Humphrey, the presenter, did at times reference the infamous slip against Chelsea back in 2014 when he had a chance to, was it 2014 or 2013? 2014 I think it was, when he had the chance to win the title, and in the end they lost it towards the end to Manchester City. Gerrard of course mentioned that time there and how he's still haunted by that moment, and one of the reasons he's gone into management, Jake Humphrey suggested maybe had they won the title back then, that Gerrard wouldn't be in the position where he is right now, and he wouldn't be the man who he is right now as well, with such a ridiculous amount of resilience, And there was a bit that really stood out for me there, which was the fact that he was so haunted by that moment, and it still haunts him to this day, as he alluded to in the podcast. Obviously, he's won a league title with Rangers, he's now at Aston Villa. I thought he did a great job last year, Gerrard at Aston Villa, in the post-Jack Grealish era. Funny enough, scored the only goal of the game there in the 1-0 win against Aston Villa for us, as we finally return to winning ways after a tough mini patch of form. I really do feel there's something about that, when you go through like a real ego-crushing moment, as it would have been for Gerrard. That would have been his first and only Premier League title. Obviously, he never got to win it as a player. Liverpool did win it, of course, a few years later under Jurgen Klopp, a couple of years back. And he even talked about it in the podcast. There was not one bit of him that felt jealous or envious. He was just so happy for the team because he loves Liverpool. He bleeds Liverpool, So, of course, he was so happy, and there was no amount of jealousy or envy or anything like that. But I really loved that part of the podcast where he talked about it so openly, and it was very vulnerable. A lot of people would just say, oh, I don't care, it didn't affect me at all. But Gerrard was really honest about it, He really was so open and so willing to accept the vulnerability and how it's affected him, mentally. It haunted him, And I really do feel as though, come on, man, like, let's just be honest here. Like, we're all going to go through moments like this in our lives. I've been through a couple. I can think of a couple in my mind right now that have been real sort of ego deaths for me, or just total moments of pure failure when I thought I was onto a winner, if you will. And it really does mess you up. Like, it really resets you. It really makes you think inwardly and think, am I good enough? It can sometimes induce imposter syndrome or add to your inferiority complex, but it's those moments that you bounce back from. I mentioned on this podcast, as we're taking on Crystal Palace here for our second game today. In fact, I'll get back to this point in a moment. I want to talk about this game here. I was taking on Crystal Palace, and I don't know whether you guys are the same as me, but like when you move clubs in career mode and you face your old club for the first time, especially when you're away from home, man, you gotta win it. Seriously, you've got to win. We've been pretty poor recently, just 1 win in our last 4 games. Only just great for Aston Villa with a late Jack Grealish goal. This was not the time to go to Selhurst Park. I was so nervous heading into this game because Palace started off quite well this season, but I was not prepared to lose this one. We scored for a rocket through Bernardo Silva in the first half. Joe Willock levelled it, but in the second half we got Backy in front and Julian Alvarez. What a volley this was by the Argentine. Absolutely brilliant goal there from the youngster. I love this camera angle, by the way, showing the away fans which he ran towards. Great run by Max Aarons, back at his old stomping ground. This volley by Alvarez, how clean is that? That is so clean. Top bins, no chance for Henderson. It is 3-1, and surely at this point now, the points are in the bag. 16 minutes to go, holding on to a 3-1 victory. Palace in possession, quickly come on the offensive here. And I mentioned this a lot. I want to show you this highlight real quickly. Look at the way that Palace pressed me there. 2 players came out to meet me. As I worked the space in behind, I'm 1-on-1 and Foden's through to make it 4. I know I sound like a broken record when I say this, but guys, all the time, when the AI operate at high press, try and keep your composure. More than anything, try and stay composed, try and stay concentrated. If you can, keep your nerve when they play that high press. You can get in behind. If you've got a quick team, then you'll be through one-on-one and have a chance to put the dagger in. Exactly what we did there. 4-1 the final score. Big win at Selhurst Park. I was not prepared to lose my first game heading back to the Etihad Stadium. So going back to what I was talking about there, obviously on my channel, obviously over the past couple of years in particular, I feel like I've done a really good job at starting to, mask my depression much better than I used to. Back in the day, I'll be totally honest here, I've talked about this with my therapist, I used to kind of see depression as a bit of a character trait for me, I used to, it's a bit embarrassing now I think about it, but I used to be like, yeah, I'm just depressed, that's how it is, and I use it as a character trait, maybe throwing a joke here or there, and I still do every now and then, but I kind of saw it as like, I don't need to, how ridiculous is this goal, by the way, I was so frustrated, I don't need to, work on it as much as I currently do now, obviously I'm on antidepressants, I go to therapy frequently, I've been going to a therapist for over a year now. I'm starting to put myself in more challenging moments for me that make me a little bit more extroverted, if you will. I don't say no to as many social situations as I used to. I'm looking for different ways to try and improve my mood. I used to, I'm a bit of not a cynic, but a skeptic. Things like manifestation, for example. And positive affirmations. When I heard that sort of stuff, I was like, do me a favour, do you know what I mean? Like, I used to be so dismissive of that sort of stuff, positive affirmations and manifestation. I used to be like, just shut up, do you know what I mean? It's rubbish. But now, because it is a tool that you can use, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but I do start to try and do that now. I do try and start to repeat positive affirmations, even though when I look in the mirror, that Gordon Ramsay meme, it's like, you effing donkey, and then the other one is like, oh dear, gorgeous. That's like what I'm like with my friends. And my friends, like, something goes wrong for them, and I'm like, oh, don't worry, I got you, I love you, it's okay, things gonna be alright. Something bad happens to me, or I do something bad, and I'm like, you're a stupid idiot, you are, do you know what I mean? I'm so self-loathing, but I am trying to work on that a little bit, and now I'm trying to do a little bit better at that, and I think for me, we sometimes, we still do get haunted by those moments of complete failure, and I guess the Gerrard episode kind of spoke to me really, because what he went through there back in, again, I think it was 2014, was, his ultimate failure in his playing career. The dude's won everything, League Cup, FA Cup, Champions League, he's done everything with Liverpool, but the one thing he never got was the Premier League, and you can tell, even to this day, it's haunted him, but it's made him so driven and so resilient, and, I don't talk about my personal life as much nowadays on YouTube, but I think about me a few years ago, and the position I was in, and compared to where I am now, it's unbelievable. Like, the change really is unbelievable. And of course, being a perfectionist as I am, and being very self-critical, I still sit there and think, oh, I've done nothing. I've done nothing yet. I've done nothing yet. I haven't got to where I want to get to, etc., etc., etc. So I'm always looking towards the future and thinking, what can I do next? But this year, for example, well, let me take you back. So, a few years ago, I was a drug addict. I admit it now. I was a drug addict. I smoked weed every day. I did quite a bit of coke. I was an addict. Just going to be totally honest about it. And back in 2016, this is going back quite a few years ago now. It was like 6 years ago. I had, an okay amount of money built up in my savings account, all done through myself, through my YouTube career, and I was very proud of that. You fast forward 3.5 years, I had nothing. Like, I had an okay amount of savings. Okay, not a great deal, but for someone like me who's come from, a lower middle class family at best, who's had no help from parents, I did it all myself. I was very proud of myself in some ways. I did all that myself. I earned all this myself, and I did really well. And then 3.5 years later, I had nothing. I literally had nothing. I was basically bankrupt. I can tell you, I had £400 to my name. £400. I'm just going to be totally honest here. I'd had a breakdown, a complete breakdown. I moved houses, because I was just completely all over the place. I went to stay with my mum for a week. I had a breakdown. My life was just terrible. I, planned to commit suicide. I was all over the place, But those moments there that really shocked me. We go to where I am right now. We're, not even 3 years later, 2.5 years later, and I'm sober. I'm drug free. Come the 5th of November, I think it is, I'll be 3 years drug free. Obviously I've become a vegan as well. Not that that's a thing, but it's a show of discipline. And I've managed to rebuild the money that I lost. And I have, at this current point as I'm recording this video, I have the exact amount in my bank account as I had back in 2016. I managed to put it back in through hard work, resilience, and, as I'm always willing to accept, through the support of you guys. Without you guys, I've got nothing. Literally nothing. I don't have a career. I've got nothing without you guys supporting my Patreon, but also as well, watching my videos and supporting. I've got nothing, you know. But through your help, your support, and my resilience, I've managed to pull it back round, if you will, you know. And I think those moments there, they really can be so harrowing. Those ego death moments, you know, where things are just the lowest of the low, like it was for me. Like I said, that year when I ended up having nothing in the bank account, I've thrown it all away through drugs and stupid decisions, you know. I had nothing. I was suicidal. I didn't want to live anymore. I was just completely all over the place, you know. But those moments there, the lowest of the lows, they really can propel you. And a few months ago, I hit one of my big life goals. I mean, a few months ago, I hit one of my big life goals. Something I dreamed about doing as a kid. I managed to do it. I won't talk about it because I'm not ready to talk about it. But it was something which I wanted to do for, you know, basically my entire life. And I managed to pull it off. And of course, because I'm a perfectionist, I'm still not totally satisfied about it. And of course, I'm so driven and always looking for the next thing. You know, I really do suffer from that next thing syndrome where it's like, I've hit this big goal. I'll be honest, again, I'm not going to tell you what happened, but basically, the morning afterwards, I'm on my phone looking at plans for the next thing. You know, it really is me. I'm always one of those people that's like, oh, when I get here, I'll be happy. But when I do get here, I move the goalposts again. And I'm like, no, now I've got to get there. You know, like I hit a life goal and now I'm like, no, but then I've got to do this, you know. But it's one of those moments where, like I said, I realise, and when I do sit down and reflect on it, you know, and listen to that Steven Gerrard podcast, I'll leave a link to it in the description before I listen to it. It really did help me look inwards and think, wow, that moment that Gerrard went through, that would have been the lowest moment of his playing career, let's be honest here. To lose that game to Chelsea, they end up losing the title. That was his best and, you know, biggest shot at winning the Premier League. In the end, he never got one. But the resilience it gave him, you know, moving forward to now go into management, you know, win Rangers their first title in a decade. You know, and now Aston Villa trying to lay down the groundwork there to do something special in the post-Jack Grealish era. I don't think he'd be where he is right now with this amount of resilience, with an SPL to his name, and also now trying to do big things with Aston Villa, had he not had that moment there against Chelsea. So I guess my point today is, like, you know, when you think about it, guys, I know watching this video, I'm sure many of you would have gone through a real low, embarrassing moment, humiliating moment, ego death moment, tough, soul-destroying moment, whatever it was. But guys, think about it. It's something which can propel you forward with resilience. Those moments there are what build such character and can really build up your strength to deal with those moments in the future as well. Because we'll have more, as will I, as will Steven Gerrard in the future, but they really can uncover your true character of strength and determination and resilience as well. So thank you for watching today's episode of the Real Summer Career, guys. Big thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed it, if you have, then please do drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day. I do love you guys, sincerely. When I say much love, I truly do mean it. Much love to each and every one of you, and I'll see you for the next episode very soon.